Have you ever had the quiet, unsettling feeling that something about life just doesn't add up? That the story we've all been told, the one about who we are, what we're supposed to do, and where we're all heading, might not just be incomplete, but entirely upside down? Alan Watts didn't just suspect this. He knew it. And he spent his life trying to wake us up, not with dogma, but with laughter, with paradox, with poetic clarity. What he called forbidden wisdom wasn't hidden in some ancient, dusty scroll. It was hiding in plain sight right in front of us, behind the veil of everything we've been taught to believe. From the moment we're born, we're handed a script. We're told that we are individuals, separate from the world. That our purpose is to be useful, productive, successful, preferably in a way that makes money. We're told to work hard, be good, follow the rules, climb ladders, and maybe, if we're lucky, retire early and enjoy a few peaceful years before death. But Alan Watts said something radical. That story is a trick. It's not life. It's a game. And worse, it's a game we forgot we were playing. He said, we suffer from a hallucination, from a false and distorted sensation of our own existence. You think you're a self, cut off from everything else. You think you're in control. You think you're supposed to get somewhere. But what if none of that is true?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's start with the biggest lie, that you are separate from life. That you are a skin-encapsulated ego floating through a world of other. And that nature is out there. That the universe is something you were born into rather than something you are. Watts flipped that entire framework on its head. He said, you are not a stranger in this world. You didn't come into it, you came out of it. Just like a wave comes from the ocean, you come from the universe. You are not in it, you are it. That's not poetry. That's physics. That's biology. That's truth. But if you believe you're separate, you'll spend your life trying to control everything. You'll fear death. You'll chase meaning. You'll suffer. Not because life is painful, but because you're playing the game of life wrong. And here's where things get really wild. Watts didn't just say that separation is an illusion, he said that striving is too. The idea that you need to become something, improve yourself, fix yourself, that's part of the illusion. We're taught to treat life like a journey with a destination. You start here, you move forward, you achieve. But Watts said, what if life isn't a journey at all? What if it's a dance? You don't dance to get to the end. You dance to dance. You don't play music to hear the final note. You play to enjoy the unfolding. But we've been taught to defer happiness until we've earned it, or until we've done enough. But what if you're already enough right now? What if there's nowhere to go, nothing to prove, and no one to become? That's the forbidden wisdom. And it's forbidden not because it's dangerous, but because it's freeing. It threatens the entire structure of society as we know it. If you stop believing that you're separate, you stop competing. If you stop striving, you stop buying things to fill the void. If you stop chasing, you start noticing. And the more you notice, the more you see that life was never meant to be a race. It was meant to be lived fully, freely, fearlessly. So here's the question. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to become someone and simply allowed yourself to be who you already are? Watts would say that most of us are like actors who've forgotten they're in a play. We take every scene seriously. We suffer in roles we don't even like. And we forget that we can step back not to escape the play, but to enjoy it, to laugh, to improvise, to play our part with joy instead of fear. He said, "You are the universe experiencing itself." So why do we live like we're in exile? Let's go deeper. You've probably been told that life is about control. Control your mind. Control your future. Control your image. But Alan Watts exposed the paradox. The more you try to control life, the more anxious you become. Because deep down, you know that life can't be controlled. It's wild, it's spontaneous, it's alive, and you are part of that aliveness. You're not the puppet master, you're the dance. When things feel chaotic, it's not because life is wrong, it's because your expectations are clashing with reality. And the more you resist what is, the more you suffer. So what's the alternative? Surrender. Not as defeat, but as awakening. When you stop trying to grip life with your mind, you begin to feel it in your body, in your breath, in your being. You start to see that flow isn't something you achieve, it's something you return to. And in that flow, you're not passive. You're present. You're not asleep. You're awake. You don't lose control, you lose the illusion of control. And in its place, you gain something far more powerful, trust. But that's the core of Watts' forbidden wisdom. Trust the universe. Not in a blind, naive way, but in a way that recognizes you are part of something vast, intelligent, and interconnected. That your heartbeat is not isolated, it's in rhythm with the stars. That your thoughts are not private, they ripple through the field of consciousness like waves in the ocean. That your life is not meaningless, it's a thread woven into the infinite tapestry of being. So why do you doubt your place in it? Maybe it's because you were told not to trust yourself, not to trust your intuition, not to trust the silence, the stillness, the moments without answers. But Watts taught that those quiet moments are the answers. That when the mind stops chattering, the truth begins to rise. That when you stop searching, you start seeing. Have you ever noticed that the most profound realizations come not when you try to understand, but when you finally let go? So here's the challenge: let go. Not of responsibility or compassion, but of the illusion. Let go of the story that you are alone, that you are broken, that you are behind. Let go of the narrative that says you must find meaning out there. Because the truth is, you are meaning. You are the dance. You are the music. You are the wave returning to the ocean. And maybe, just maybe, the reason this wisdom feels so forbidden is because it threatens the entire game. Because if you wake up, you stop playing by the rules. You stop trying to win. You start creating. You start loving. You start being. And in that radical act of presence, you don't just change yourself, you change the world. What if everything you've been told about life is a beautiful misunderstanding? If life really is a game, like Alan Watts said, if it's not a journey with a finish line, but a dance meant to be danced, then the next question is this: who made the rules? And more importantly, why do we still follow them, even when they make us miserable? This is where the forbidden wisdom starts to burn a little. Because once you begin to see the game for what it is, once you realize it's been rigged from the start, you can't unsee it. You begin to question everything. The pressure to succeed, the grind, the constant comparison, the shame, and the guilt, the fear of failure. You begin to wonder who benefits from me constantly chasing something I never quite reach. Alan Watts didn't just expose the illusion, he showed us how deeply invested we are in maintaining it. Society depends on your belief that you are not enough, that you must become something more, acquire something else, achieve some status before you can finally relax. That's how the whole economy runs. What happens if you wake up one day and realize that you are already whole? That you don't need more to be more? You become uncontrollable. You stop buying into the system. And that is terrifying to those who profit from your insecurity. Watts believed that this is why his brand of wisdom was so dangerous, not because it was extreme, but because it was true. And truth liberates. So what does it mean to really wake up to this rigged game? It means realizing that much of what you suffer from is not your fault, it's inherited. It's programmed. You were born into a world that told you stories about success, about happiness, about God, about morality, about your identity. And those stories were told so often with such authority that they formed a cage around your consciousness. But here's the twist. The door to that cage has always been open. You can leave, right now. You don't need permission. You don't need a guru. You just need to see clearly. Watts said, the menu is not the meal. And most of us have been chewing on the menu for so long, we've forgotten to taste life directly. Let's talk about one of the biggest lies in the game, the idea of the self. We're told it's fixed, solid, something we must discover or define. But Watts said the self is more like a verb than a noun. It's not something you are, it's something you do. It's a process, a performance, a constantly shifting pattern of experiences. But you are not the same person you were 5 years ago or 5 minutes ago. And yet, we cling to this idea of a permanent identity because it gives us a sense of control. But what if freedom means letting go of who you think you are so you can become who you really are, moment by moment? But what if your true self isn't a fixed point, but the space in which everything arises and dissolves? This is where Watts' wisdom becomes not just philosophical, but practical. Because once you understand that the game is rigged, you stop trying to win it and start playing a different game. You stop asking, how do I get ahead? And start asking, what feels alive right now? You stop saying, what should I do with my life? And start asking, where is life moving through me right now? You become less interested in being impressive and more interested in being real. And in that shift, something magical happens. You begin to enjoy the game. Not because it's easy, but because you're no longer resisting it. You're no longer playing someone else's version. You're improvising your own. But this kind of freedom is not without cost. When you stop living the way others expect you to, you will be misunderstood. You may be called selfish, lazy, even crazy. That's okay. Watts said, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your awakening. You don't need to prove that your joy is justified. You are allowed to be free. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to laugh at the seriousness of the world and still be deeply compassionate. You are allowed to be without always becoming. So ask yourself, what rules am I still living by that I never agreed to? What stories am I still believing that make me feel small, separate, or ashamed? And what would happen if I stopped believing them? What would happen if I gave myself permission to enjoy life, even if it's messy, uncertain, and unresolved? Watts didn't give us a roadmap, he gave us a mirror, a way to see our own insanity and smile at it, a way to see how seriously we take ourselves and how liberating it is to laugh at that seriousness. He didn't want us to escape life, he wanted us to become so fully present that life couldn't escape us, that joy would find no room to hide, and that fear would lose its grip, that love would stop being a concept and start being a reality. And maybe that's the final piece of this forbidden wisdom. You don't need to be fixed, you need to be found. Not by others, but by yourself. And not even the self you think you are, but the deeper being that's always been watching. The awareness behind the eyes, the silence beneath the noise. The stillness that is not disturbed by the storm. Because when you touch that part of you, life stops being something you manage and starts being something you merge with. You stop trying to win and start remembering that you've already won by being here at all. Alan Watts didn't just want you to wake up. He wanted you to remember that you were never really asleep, just dreaming. And now that you're aware of the dream, you can finally begin to play. Thank you for watching. If this video cracked something open in you, don't patch it up. Let it stay open. Let it breathe. Let it become your doorway. And remember, life isn't what you've been told. It's what you are. Subscribe for more. Reflect deeper. Live freer.